see what gaps can be filled. Obviously, not all the gaps can be filled, but what is available, what could possibly be done within the constraints of our environment here in Nigeria. So just stay tuned and we will be right back.
The work we're doing in stroke differs somewhat from the work we've been doing in, say, Parkinson's disease, essential tremor, and the movement disorders that have been treated for, say, 2 decades or more with deep brain stimulation type of technology. In those situations, we are largely using stimulation. We're still trying to modulate the brain circuits, but in those cases, we're trying to reduce motor signs, reduce symptoms, whereas now, with the research that we're doing in stroke, we're actually trying to use stimulation to enhance activity along specific circuits within the brain to augment the natural processes of plasticity and reorganization that we believe underlies improvements in motor function following stroke. Our ultimate goal in the short term for this line of research is to demonstrate that this treatment can be applied safely, it can be applied feasibly, and in the long term, obviously, it's to not only demonstrate improved clinical outcomes, but understand how it is that those clinical outcomes are improving. Do they match our hypotheses with respect to what we think is going on in the brain is a function of improvements in those patients. And an interesting piece of our research that actually extends beyond the treatment of stroke is probably whether or not we can use this type of stimulation, treatment along these different circuits that we're targeting, just as a general means of enhancing or even diminishing activity along specific circuits to more or less upregulate or downregulate cortical excitability, as this type of treatment may have uses beyond stroke in terms of other diseases like epilepsy, traumatic brain injury, where we may want to sort of, for lack of a better word, artificially increase or decrease the excitability of the cerebral cortex. A key component of the Brain Initiative as far as what it means for our work is that it's going to allow us to extend work that is already underway in meaningful ways that, in addition to our primary emphasis on clinical outcomes, can we improve functional rehabilitation in these patients, it's going to complement that work and allow us to do some of the more basic science that goes along with what we've been doing over the last decade and examine how is it that we're modulating the brain circuitry and whether or not that modulation can endure even beyond the time that we're actually delivering stimulation.
What I didn't mention in the introduction was that over 40% of everyone who has a stroke in Nigeria will die from that stroke. So that's a big problem. That's a lot higher than what you find in the Western world. So it's very, very important that we understand what to do as soon as you see that someone has a stroke, not just for doctors now, but for lay people, the steps to take, see the doctor or go to the hospital, things like that. But things that you can do at home before even getting to the hospital. So with us on the program today is Mrs. Kofo Davis Otto.
Yes, please.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And it's a pleasure to have you on.
Same here.
You are a physiotherapist
Yes.
of over 20 years experience.
Yes.
17 of which were in the
Outside
UK.
the country, yeah.
Well, outside the country. So Europe for the most part.
Yeah.
And I see that you are the head and founder of
Neuromuscular Rehabilitation Service.
Neuromuscular Rehabilitation Service. So
Yes.
you are just the person we're looking for.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
So, okay, we know what happens in Nigeria. Let's talk about what happens starting from when a person has a stroke.
Okay.
Take us step by step until what obtains in standard treatment, and then we can now compare with what we have here.
Okay, yeah. So basically, I would look at scenarios in the UK. So let's say family, husband and wife are seated, and all of a sudden maybe they're having a conversation, and the man is not responding.
Why is it the man all the time?
Oh, most times, actually, really, to be honest, research has it that most times is always, the prevalence is more to, tends to be because, I don't know, maybe because...
I thought we were just picking on us men. But
No, apologies for that. Yeah, so, okay, let's use the wife in this instance.
It's okay.
They were having dinner, all of a sudden, the man is just not talking, and some of the telltale signs will be the tongue has turned a little bit slightly on one side of the body, and his face, sometimes you could see the face really turning. So the woman will automatically, because most of them, they do have some level of knowledge, their local GP would have informed them, the nurses would have informed them, especially for those ones that are predisposed to having stroke, if they are hypertensive or diabetic or obese. So the lady would normally be asked to, the man would be asked to lift up the hands. If you find that the man is not lifting up, and then ask the man to try and roll the tongue or try and move the tongue, and the man is not responding. The next thing the woman, if there are kids nearby, is to pick up the phone and call 911, the emergency service. Meanwhile, to gently lower the man on a flat surface and put the man in a recovery position.
On a flat surface, is that totally flat?
On the floor, with the head supported.
With the head raised?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is for what reason now?
Just to ensure that, number one, the man does not fall off from the chair, because in a few instances that we've had is either the man or the woman, whoever has the stroke, goes to the toilet and then falls over, because sometimes head injury because of the blackouts can even make the stroke to be even more severe.
Okay.
So is to get them on a level surface.
Okay.
Emergency services called. Ambulance services between 3 to 5 minutes is always the case.
They would have arrived within 3 to 5 hours?
No, 3 to 5 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay. All right, so they're there, they stabilize, they take the patient to the nearest hospital.
Yeah.
And then when they get to the hospital...
At the point at which they're transferring, they're already radioing, because you remember the lady has called the emergency service to notify. They're already notifying the hospital. So nurses are there, doctors that is going to accept the patient, they're already waiting. So the ambulance, by the time the ambulance is coming with the ambulance services, they are wheeling the man to the
emergency room.
All
right, so we're going to have to move a little faster now, because we want. So they get to the emergency room, they stabilize him. The doctor, the surgeons come in. If there needs to be intervention, in the X-rays, CT scan, all those things.
Exactly, straight away.
Within how many hours is all this done?
Within an hour or less than that. Yeah, it's always very straight, and no reason that you have to pay. They just see the patient first. Okay, so treat first, ask questions later. Yeah. All right. So we were talking. So then you said that there's a team that comes into place. Does it stay in the emergency room, or does it go to the ICU? So once the patient is stabilized, it's called triage. Once the patient is stabilized and everything is okay with the patient, straight away the teams are called. The neurologists we have to link. It's always a multidisciplinary team that see the stroke patient. Okay. So when I mean multidisciplinary team, we're talking about the occupational therapist, we're talking about the physiotherapist, we're talking about the speech and language therapist. If there is any dysphagia with the stroke or eating or swallowing problems. We're talking about the social care services. You're talking, the neurologist is the one. They will have a case conference on this patient that, okay, what are the next line of action that needs to be done. For physiotherapists, ambulation is key. Once the patient is stabilized means that all the vitals have gone down. So immediately, it's always encouraged.
Ambulation, which means the person starts
standing. There's a tilting space bed that you have to start using for the patient. They start standing them upright and start doing activities on the bed, passive mobilization of the movement, just to know. And some of them are active assisted, or the patient. And active assisted means that the patient is being encouraged to lift the hands if it's not too affected. But if it's really affected, yeah, they lift the hands of the patient by the therapist. Yeah. Okay. So they've gone into, from the family area, they've been able to pick up the lifestyle, the type of job, if this person is a known patient to them, all of that. So the social worker already comes into play, and they already have an idea because they have a pre-stroke questionnaire that they would have filled, and 3 days after, it already gives you what is going to be the recovery, the recovery rate of that person. What are the things that this person will need much more later, i.e. wheelchair, adaptive home, to make sure that the house is suitable for the patient and that is accessible as well.
Oh, and so the occupational therapists,
that's what the social worker and the occupational therapists do.
So they're already trying to get them ready to get back into their normal pre-stroke activities. Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right. All right. So, and then usually that kind of helps. I also know that surgeons, if there's a blockage, they go in and they remove the blockage and institute all kinds of therapies to make sure that happens. All right. So we have an idea of what happens. And do you have any idea of the mortality rate? I know in Nigeria it's like 40%. Do you have any idea of
to be honest with you, it's so funny. Like, there's some things, they've gone as advanced as some of the stroke cases that was won. If you can get the patient within the next, I think, an hour or two, they can reverse the stroke 98%. They can actually reverse that. You won't have any further disability. 90, and they use an helicopter. Some hospitals do have helicoparts as well. So straight away, they've been radioed. This person is coming, bringing this person. This is a fresh case. This, and straight away they do the surgery. They can reverse 98%. Yeah. So almost like nothing happened. Yes, sir.
So deaths would almost be
it's at
a minimum.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So it's just disability now. They can really reduce it. Okay. All right. So now we're going to have to go into what happens over here.
Okay.
And what can be done to fill in those gaps. Okay. But I think what we need to do is take a break at this point, and then we'll come back in the next few minutes. Okay, welcome back. So we've talked about what happens in the Western world. Now let's talk about what happens here and now. And I think we need to first of all talk about prevention, right?
Yes, sir.
So some of the things that we want to point out.
Yes, one of the first one is ensure that you're taking your medication if you're known predisposed to any of those factors that doctors are highlighted. Number two, ensure that there is a local hospital that you are registered with that is not far away. We don't have a 5-minute ambulance service in Nigeria. Number three, ensure that all the risks that you've been explained to, you are not taking those risks. Number four, ensure that you're taking your medication at the right time so that you get that improvement. Then number five, please do have one of your doctor's number at hand in case, because we don't have 5-minute ambulance care in Nigeria.
Okay, good. So now that they have had a stroke, by the way, what you described about them having dinner at the dinner table and all that, and you're asking whether their tongue is rolling, that's for Oyimbos.
Yes.
That's the kind of stroke that happens to an Oyimbo. In an African man, the stroke is a much more dramatic than just tongue going on. I think over here is much more serious when we have a stroke here. I don't know why we always have it worse. But anyway, you bring them to the hospital.
Yes, sir.
The doctor has stabilized them. We know it's a stroke. From that step onwards, the patient has survived. what should you encourage caregivers, parents, children to do?
So from the very moment that the patient is stabilized and all the vitals are very okay, the BP has gone down, the blood sugar has really reduced, the next thing is to start asking, and I think this goes to the doctors and to the families as well, the carers as well, to ask what are the next line of action. We need to get a multidisciplinary team in. If the physiotherapists are in-house in the hospital, fantastic. Occupational therapists are there because you have to think about what the person was doing before, how they can get back to.
We don't have any forget occupational therapists. Let's see. Do we have occupational therapists?
We do. We actually have an occupational therapist in my center.
Really? Okay.
I'm telling you.
That's fantastic. Most hospitals do not have occupational therapists. What's your center called again?
It's called Neuromuscular Rehabilitation Service.
Neuromuscular Rehabilitation Service in Abuja here.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the event that they have occupational therapists, good.
Yes,
in the event they have a speech therapist, they need to start instituting.
Exactly.
It. And then if they don't have, the parents should be able to seek for outside and ask get for the doctor's permission.
Exactly.
To bring these people in so that no time is wasted in recovery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And they have to keep on checking and I also recommend folks, as you know, this is on Your Health in Your Hands, we talk about nutrition because nutrition provides the building block for repair and recovery. So one of the top things that we recommend as soon as the patient is able to eat or swallow anything, omega-3 fatty acids, high quality omega-3 fatty acids, certain things that boost nitric oxide production like L-arginine. We talk about vitamin D3. You should be giving these things to your patients as long as he's able to eat. It will not interfere with medication in any way. Trust me, it will not. And there are also cardiovascular health complexes that help to feed and help the body repair damaged blood vessels. Okay. So we said that a few things. Did you want to add anything?
I think we're on the right course, and I think some hospitals are already doing that in terms of inviting all the professionals into their hospitals so that they kickstart off the line of management.
Great. And ambulation is key in all this.
Extremely.
All right, let's look at we have some props. We have not props. These are actual things that you use in your trade. And go ahead.
So basically, the other side of it, that after you have to think about life after the hospitals. So some patients cannot go home immediately, so you might have to look for rehabilitative centers like what we do to keep them as an inpatient. And those ones that are ready to go home, you want to ensure that the house is extremely adaptive for them so that you prevent the risk of a re-stroke, prevent the risk of falls, and prevent the risk of further injuries to every member of the house, because you can't be lifting and carrying all the time. You're going to have back problems as well. So some of it is to get handrails. These are handrails that you can pull around in the bedroom of the stroke patient, around the toilet, so that they have something to grab when they go to the toilet. This can be added to the house. These are cutleries. They are specially made cutleries. If you look at it, it's the mouth is turned in a way, because once you have a stroke, you have to hold. You can't have this pincher grip anymore. So you hold the cutlery in this way, and the food goes like this. The mouth is turned in this way. And then I have this scissors here that is really for stroke. It's very light. I'm going to ask you to cut this paper, and it's extremely sharp. You can see how easy it is. Yeah, it's for stroke patient.
That was easy.
Yeah, and then this is like a writing, an adaptive writing pen that holds, it's a pen holder that holds the pen so that you have very good grips. And also,
this is a pen here.
Yes, sir.
So what it fits in, how does
so
it go?
what you do, this is also a grip, pen grip. So let's assume that I want to use a pen. It goes,
fits in there.
Yeah, it goes in there.
Okay.
So I go this way. So the pen is really sitting on my hand, and I can write whatever. You can still write your check, you can still write letters to your teacher, and these are hand weights, just different things to modify. This is for lifting the patient if you want to move. Rather than breaking your back, you use it as a form of support to lift. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Well, I think we're almost out of time, but what is this?
This is for the hand support, because with the stroke, you want to ensure that the hand is flat. You know, the hands get really tight and they can't open it most times, and then so these are some of the rehabilitative equipment. I've only brought a few of these to show that there are things out there that can be used for clients that will make their life better. When you are 40 and you have a stroke, life should not be the end for you.
True, true.
Yeah.
So how regularly would you say they need to see a physiotherapist?
Oh, as regularly. It's based on their needs, as regularly as possible. Like we have a program that we do a daily session for the patient every day for 5 days, because we are using the repetitive movements to train the brain back. Because of
Just 5 days?
No, it has to be continuous every week. It can be for 6 weeks, for 8 weeks.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fantastic. Well, this has been very educative. I'm sure we'll probably need to talk a little bit more about strokes and diabetes and other things that you do as a physiotherapist.
Yes, sir.
To how you adapt that to the environment in which we are in. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate your coming over.
It's a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much.
Looking forward to having you again sometime.
Definitely.
All right.
Thank you.
So again, that was Mrs. Kofo Davis Otto. She is the physiotherapist from Neuromuscular Rehabilitation Center. Folks, thanks for joining us. Remember, your health is in your hands. It's very important. The tip for the day is that you don't want to keep your cell phone on your person. You want to leave your cell phone, and don't always put it in your pocket. I know men are particularly guilty of this because you have pockets. You put them in your pockets, and the rays from that cell phone are going to be damaging your sperm count and your testes. So you don't want that, especially if you haven't gotten kids yet. Do not sleep with your cell phone near your head. If it's under the pillow, take it from under your pillow. Hopefully, just turn it off. Okay, so because cell phones, it's in the next 5-10 years, you'll be seeing a lot of problems that have arisen from the cell phone being too close to your body. You don't want to wait until then to make the changes. So be sure you attend to that. Again, this is Dr. David Ajibade with the Brain and Body Foundation. You can get videos of these presentations on the website, NTA, Your Health in Your Hands, or on our website, which is brainandbodyfoundation.org. Till next week, God bless. See you soon.